Chapter 7. Tarot. Several hours of whipping up delicious drinks and serving buttery treats, and Larimar was ready for a break. Rebecca had hung around longer than she expected and was ready to meet with Larimar before her husband started calling, wondering where she was at. The girls from Spectre and Book were long gone, and the din in the shop was starting to wind down now that the afternoon crowd was well satiated. Larimar took off her apron and motioned for Rebecca to follow her upstairs. They could meet in the loft by the small fireplace, where they would be out of earshot of curious onlookers. There was a bistro table and chairs set with a whimsical tablecloth of lovers floating by in a boat on a magical lake, a hand-me-down from Larimar's grandmother. She always knew how to make even the darkest of settings magical, Larimar recalled with fondness. She brought up a silver tray with an antique teapot filled with marigold and mugwort tea. If anything, she understood the healing arts of herbs, even if she didn't always understand the messages they strived to send her way. She knew these two herbs would be tasty, but also open the senses to whatever messages wanted to come through. And she was thankful for someone whom she trusted to try to intervene and bring them through. With all the goings-on lately, Larimar had been lax in her spiritual work, and she knew she needed a reboot. Rebecca sat down at the richly prepared table and removed her sweater. She always got warm when she was working with Spirit. "Thanks so much for reaching out to me," Larimar said, pouring them some tea. "I must admit I'm a little anxious to be meeting with you," she said, taking a sip of her tea and allowing the magical herbs to infuse her. "Of course," Rebecca said kindly. "I can always tell when something's troubling someone. And it's the least I can do to give back after you've kept me so warm and toasty all season," she said, taking her tarot deck from her purse. It was something she always carried with her, and she didn't leave the house without it. The ways of the witch often befuddle the mortal mind, and non-witchy folks didn't understand how a tarot deck might be more important to a witch than her car keys. Oh, so good. Rebecca took a deep breath and reached out to take Larimar's hands. Gently she held them as she closed her eyes and incanted, "Lord, make me a brilliant channel for your guidance. Goddess, cover us with your love and light. Angels, fill me with your heavenly might. So be it," she said, releasing Larimar's hands. A peaceful presence entered the room, and Larimar felt instantly at ease. Rebecca began to shuffle the cards and lay them out one by one as they revealed themselves popping out from the deck. She turned the deck over to reveal the bottom card, and Larimar noticed the spread was in the shape of a heart. But how could she know that, was Larimar's first thought, and then she relaxed, reminding herself this was a tarot reading being conducted by one of the most powerful witches in Rockaway Point. The bottom card of the deck was the Hangman, and Larimar took a deep breath. "Relax, darling, it's all good," Rebecca said as she interpreted the meaning of the card for Larimar, letting her guides channel through her. "There's a man in your life," she began. "Wait, no, there are two men in your life." She corrected herself, allowing her guides to take her deeper into a trance-channel state. Psst. "One man is right in front of you," she said, seeing what Larimar knew had to be Rowan. "The other one is very far away, but instantly connected to you," she said as Larimar's throat tightened. She continued, "This other man reaches out to you often, but he doesn't know what he's doing. Spirit says he thinks you're a ghost." Larimar gasped. Rebecca had tapped into her thoughts. She started to tremble. Was her spirit lover real? Her mind was racing. "Just relax," Larimar said, feeling the heightened anxiety. She turned over the next card. The death card. Larimar flinched. "It's all good," Rebecca repeated Spirit's words. "The death of something is at hand." "It's not a physical death, so don't be concerned. It's the death of a feeling," she said, pointing to the Hangman card. "One of these men is dead to you, and the other is more living than you realize." Rebecca slowly turned over the next card, the Eight of Swords. You're coming full circle, but there's something standing in your way, Rebecca said, as Larimar listened with complete focus, hanging on. This other man, the faraway one, he's betrothed to you from another lifetime, Rebecca said, feeling the love of many lifetimes wrap around her. Larimar's eyes welled with tears. By God, was he really real? All these years she'd been seeing him in her mind, and it was coming to light that he was a real person. But how? Who? She stammered, now nervous about all the possibilities. Rebecca turned the next card. The lovers. He's not sure that you really feel for him, Rebecca said. Both men are uncertain of your feelings. Have you shared your true feelings with these men? Rebecca asked, not really expecting an answer yet. Larimar, sobbing, answered in a soft, no, I didn't think he was real. All my life he's been coming to me in my mind and my dreams. Are you certain, Rebecca? I really must know for sure, she said, tears pouring down her face. Spirit doesn't lie, honey. No, hold on, let's keep going, she said, turning over the next card. The Queen of Cups. You've got to get a handle on your feelings, desires, and emotions, Larimar. Rebecca continued in trance channel state. You must make sure you are honoring those feelings, love. She turned over the last card, the Chariot. And you absolutely must, she emphasized, go on this upcoming trip over land and sea. That is, if you want your dreams to come true. Rebecca stopped and opened her eyes. Larimar was weeping, head in hands, unable to control the overwhelming sense of foreboding, anxiety, and grief she suddenly felt all at the same time. What am I going to do? She cried. Well, it looks like you're going on a trip to meet the love of your life, Rebecca said nonchalantly, and unsurprised by Spirit's messages. But what about Rowan? What am I going to do about him? He loves me, she said, trailing off. As she saw his face in her mind, dear, sweet Rowan, she said in one breath. As in the other breath, she saw the ghostly eyes of her spirit lover looking back at her with love and lust. Chapter 8. Hanged Man. Rowan hummed along with his music channel as he packed his bags. He was actually doing it, taking a much-needed vacation, and with a woman he loved on his arm to experience it all. He reached into his medicine chest and pulled out the box of condoms he'd been using. Tossing him into the bag, he wondered, no, actually hoped, he could get Larimar to let him off the hook, so to speak. If he could impregnate her with his child, surely she couldn't and wouldn't want to leave. His higher self quickly stepped in and warned him about entrapment. He had a hard time with the abandonment thing still, and he let those feelings be taken up into the light by his angel spirit guide. He, too, was quite lax in his spiritual work, for if he had been more tuned in, he would have felt the deep sense of foreshadowing that accompanied this voyage. Instead, his masculinity took over as he pulled several pieces of sexy lingerie and jewelry out of his closet. He would give these to Larimar throughout the trips to coax her into his arms and onto his bed. He loved giving her gifts, although he realized she never seemed very surprised. Maybe she was too polite to tell him she didn't like them. His self-confidence took another hit. Alessandra had ridiculed him many times for choosing the wrong gift. They were never expensive enough for her, and he bid her and Chance another fond farewell as he closed the bag and got down another from the closet, brimming with clothes and men's accessories. His phone rang at 4:30, and he saw Larimar's name on the caller ID. Hello, love. I wasn't expecting to hear from you until later. Everything okay? He said, smoothing his hair back and heading out onto the balcony of his bedroom to get some air. He could see the ocean from there, and it looked like a big storm was headed in. Well, it's that time of year, he thought. I've got something to tell you, Larimar went on, not sure where the conversation was really headed. She didn't want to use him to get this trip, but she also was so curious about Rebecca's messages that she couldn't help herself. I'm really excited, looking forward to this time away, she said, which really was a sincere feeling from her heart. And who knows, if there was no spirit lover If Rebecca and her cards had been wrong, then she hadn't lost anything along the way. She'd still have Rowan, her dignity, and some time off. "Well, let's have dinner tonight, and I'll show you just how excited I am by this trip," he said, starting to feel passions rise. "I'll make it doubly worth your while," he said, touching himself down there. "Sure, that sounds fun," Larimar said, chiding herself for believing anything less about him and his motives. "Let's do it."